Alrighty, welcome to Patty's Crafty Spot, and we are all set. I'm going to show you how to go ahead and make this. I just want to thank you for stopping by and checking out my tutorial. This is a multi-part tutorial video series. I will link them all down below to you, as well as the final review on this mini album. I hope you have fun creating this. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and I will get back to you. If you do happen to make this, please tag me. I am on all social media at Patty's Crafty Spot, and I would love to see what you made if you went ahead and made this album. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video series, and thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more videos, and enjoy, guys. Have fun. Hi guys, Patty from Patty's Crafty Spot. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get started on the tutorial for the Moonlight Manor waterfall folio that I created for Crealies. And we're going to get started and I'm going to show you how I made it. Alright, so we're going to start on the cover first. So what you're going to need for the cover, I did increase the spine, just so you know. My original spine on my book was only 1.25 inches, and I've bumped it up to 2 inches. So you're going to need one piece of chipboard that is 2 by 9. You're going to need 2 that are 9 by 10. And then I have 2 sheets of 12 by 12 cardstock, as well as 1 sheet of Tyvek that is 5 by 9. And the way I always figure out the size for my Tyvek is I take the size of my spine and I add 3 inches to it. So that way I score in 1.5 inches on each side. And you can kind of see my score lines. But anyway, I score in 1.5 inches on each side. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So the first thing, so I'm going to add my spine piece, and I'm going to line that up between, you can't see it, between my 2 score lines. I'm going to put that down, and then I'm just going to make sure I burnish it all into place so it has a nice good stick. And then with this, I want to add 1/4 inch spacer tape. So just so you know, I am using score tape to build this. So I'm going to go ahead and add the 1/4 inch score tape right up along the edge. And then I'm going to use, I usually use 5/8, but I'm ran out of 5/8, so I'm just going to use my 3/4 inch score tape, and I'm going to apply it right to the edge. And I'll show you. So you can see, there you go. So the 1/4 inch tape and then the 3/8 tape here, right to that. And I went ahead and I already added score tape to my chipboard. So now I'm going to remove this outside piece of score tape and the score tape here, and they're going to get set right up against this score tape, and they're going to go right up against that, just like that. And I'm going to do that for both sides. And if you get your score tape all the way up tight against this piece, because the score tape itself is straight, you should be able to go ahead and get it lined up perfectly straight with your spacer tape. Just like that. And then go ahead and flip it over and just burnish all the tape down. Get a nice good stick with it. Now what you want to do right now is if you have any of the Tyvek overhanging, you want to make sure you go ahead and clean it up, just because you don't want to add any bulk when you're wrapping. You want nice clean edges, so not too bad. Alright, so now what you want to do is, I do have a window pocket on the front of mine, so right now is when I'm going to go ahead and cut out the window. So my window is exactly 1.5 inches, so my Tim Holtz ruler here is exactly 1.5 inches, so it's pretty easy, and I'll show you. So all the way around 1.5 inches, it just makes it easier. So we are going to cut out this inside box. So we're cutting out this spot here, and I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my non-skid ruler, and I'm going to go ahead and cut out that box. Now, it's a good idea when you do draw boxes and stuff, you overdraw your lines, because when you go ahead and cut something out, it gives you a good idea of your stopping points. So, go ahead and do that out. Make sure you have a nice, good, sharp blade, which I probably don't because I haven't changed it out, so. Make sure you stop, you don't overcut. And I have this nice big cutting mat here. Usually I just cover it over when I do my videos with some paper. Or it's actually, I have mat board I just put over it. But it's nice because I don't have to worry about moving a cutting surface all the time. Alright, and you can usually feel when you fall down, when you cut all the way down through. So just go ahead and get in those corners good now. Okay, so let's continue. So just keep going. Oh, perfect. So it came out. You can save this or toss this. It's up to you. So now you have your window. So I would recommend cutting your window out after you've put your cover together. It just makes it easier. It's a little more stable if you have a full piece instead of one that's cut up. So now what you want to do is you're going to go ahead and add your cardstock cover. So I have 2 pieces of 12 by 12, and you do need to attach them. So what I did was I added a piece of score tape. I only used a 1/4 inch, and now I'm going to go ahead and stick the two together. And I usually look for the shiny part of the tape and stick them down together like that. Make sure it's good and stuck. There you go. And now before we add that, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and add score tape to the whole back of our cover. So I'll show you what I'll do here. I'm using 2.5-inch size score tape, and I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it all the way down, and I'll cut that out in a second. There you go. And I actually have a huge roll. When I have this extra, I just stick it on this big roll. So when I need pieces, I have it. Oops. Because don't want to waste any score tape. And I do sell that in my shop if you do need any. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. And again, cut out my piece. And actually, you can go ahead and just use this piece right here. Save that piece. And you do want to make sure you burnish it all down very well, so I'll do that afterwards. And if you're wondering, this tool that I'm using, it's just the Perfect Trim Ruler. I used it for corners when I first got it, but now I like to use my metal one from Colorways Art, so I use that one now. But this makes an excellent thing for ripping score tape. So let's see, I'm just going to do it this way quicker. Instead of, I would have normally taken the extra score tape and just pieced it on here. But it'd be quicker for me to show you that just doing it like this instead of piecing it. And we do want full coverage, so I have a 1/4 inch space left here. So I'm going to use my 1/4 inch. And then at the end, we're almost done. And then I just have 1/8. Just get this tiny little spot. Sometimes I don't worry about it when I do that, but surprisingly enough, the score tape, even though it's not that thick, it does kind of show through your paper. So if you have a spot where you didn't add tape to it, you're actually going to see the little divot from it. So make sure you burnish that down all good and well. And now you're going to take your cardstock and you're going to line it up. So let's see. So I increased my spine, which made my paper not quite so even. So let's see. I think I'll be okay because I'm going to cover the whole thing anyway afterwards. So let me get a pencil. Whoops. My little incense stick. Alright, so now what I like to do is I like to go from the bottom and measure 1-inch line. So go across, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring this down. Still debating if I should not, if I should add at all. The thing I don't like is the idea of this seam right here. Let me figure it out, and I will come back when I decide what I want to do with that part. I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and I decided to add a second sheet of paper. So all I did was attach the second sheet the same way I attached the first sheet. My concern at the time was, depending on where this had lined up, the seams where you join the two papers. Because you put a seam there, you have more apt to have it want to crack. So that was my concern about it. But I think I'll be fine, because the way I normally wrap albums anyway, usually when I have to attach 3 sheets together, my seams are usually just the same way. So let me show you what I do, because I like to have everything even when I do that. So when I wrap something, so I went ahead also too, and I know you can see it now, I did went ahead and added the extra 1-inch line above the bottom. So now what I'm going to do is, because I like everything to be perfectly centered, I'm using my centering ruler, and I'm going to find the center on my 2-inch spine, which of course is going to be 1 inch, and I'm going to mark that at the top and the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead between these 2 sheets, obviously 6 inches, because it's a 12-inch sheet, so 6 inches would be the center. So I'm going to line my ruler up, and I'm going to go ahead and find the center point there, and then obviously up here. So this one is super easy. Find my center, and I'm just going to make a quick line from top to bottom, just because it'll make things easier. So just a simple little line, you can see that there. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my book covers, and I'm going to line them up. So I'm going to take the center point on my chipboard and line it up to the center point I just put on my paper, and I'm going to line that up top to bottom. Make sure it's centered. That way where my seams are here on the paper, when I attach them, they will be in the exact same spot on the front and the back cover, and it just makes it more visual pleasing. You don't have to, but that's just how I like to do it. So I'm also going to go put 2 lines on each side here, just for when I stick it down. It just gives me more area that I know I need to line up. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove all my tape, and I'm going to stick it down. Try not to touch the score tape as much as possible, because you want to keep it as sticky as possible, and the more you touch it, the more you're going to make it less sticky. You don't want not sticky tape. Alright, so that's done. So now what I'm going to do is flip it, and I'm going to, usually what I try to do is I find like my corner down here, I line it up here, and I kind of give it a little pull just to kind of make sure it's snug, and then I just eyeball the line and just kind of walk it all the way down so you line up nice and even. And before I do a lot of flipping, let's go ahead and clean up our edges. So I want also a 1-inch border on the side, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that. And then I'm just going to flip it around and do the other side. And then I might as well just do the top. So I'm going to do the same thing on the top, 1 inch all the way across. There we go. Alright, so now what I want to do is I just want to make sure that everything is well burnished. And I would say make sure you use a burnishing tool. And that's just because you have a chance of getting a nasty paper cut on where you've attached these papers because your paper is kind of sharp. So just make sure you burnish everything down. And I like to go along with my finger and just kind of help crease where my paper is going to fold. Just like that. Okay. And now we need to cut out our little window section. So we can go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to make it probably 3/4 of an inch all the way around. And then we're going to cut out that little box. Alright, and you can see the little box. And we're just going to go ahead and cut that out. So now you can either use a ruler if you want, or if you think you can just follow the line straight, just go ahead and cut on the lines. If you go nice and slow, it shouldn't be a problem. And just careful where the paper meets. It is going to be a little thicker there. And then just take out your little box. And now what you can do is go ahead and add tape to the inside, because we're going to go ahead and wrap it. So it's just easier to add the tape right now. And yep, I can do it that way too. Wasn't sure if I was going to have to go in and get different size tape, but don't need to. Perfect, just like that. Alright, so now what you want to do now is you want to take and do a slice from this corner to this corner. So try to be as even as possible. It doesn't really matter too much because you are going to cover it all. Just like that. Now what I like to do before I remove any tape, I'm going to stick my bone folder in and just kind of start working that just to kind of get it to crease so it'll wrap nice. It'll actually wrap much nicer once you remove the score tape, because right now it is stiff just from the tape. So now you can go ahead and remove it. Make sure you put the tape on before you cut it, because then you're going to just have to recut it again once you put the tape on. So, and do one side at a time. So go ahead and crease it again. And then I just slowly start bending my tool over just to get it nice. And then go ahead and stick it down. Oops. There we go. And then the other two sides. Oops. And make sure you burnish it all really well. There we go. I'm excited to make this one because I'm using the other Halloween paper line from Michaels to make this, and I think that one is super cute. So I'm excited to make this one in that paper collection. Alright, so that is all done. So now what you want to do is, now we need to stick down the rest. So let me just flip it and show you. So you have your nice clean window. So now let's go ahead and just stick the tape down. Yeah, where's my end of my tape? And on this one, I'm just going to make sure I hit all the way to the edge. I'm not going to worry about that little space in between. Get that. And I have people about to walk in, so I'm going to pause this real quick. Okay, I'm back. So what I did real quick was I just finished taping it before I came back on. So now what I'm going to do is I need to go ahead and miter my corners. And I'm using the colorwaysart.com miter tool. And I'll link you down below in case you can't see it. I did go ahead and attached a 6-inch metal ruler because this part here didn't go as far as I like it to go. So I just score taped down a metal ruler. So let's go ahead and get our corners real quick. Oops. And then this side. Alright. So let's go ahead and finish. Alright, so what I like to do on these is before I do anything, go ahead and, just like I did on the box, go ahead and get everything folded down. Alright, and then what I'm going to do before I do anything is I'm going to remove my 1/4 inch spacer tape. And now I'm going to start with one side. Doesn't matter, long side, short side. I usually like to start with the longer side. No special reason. Just, it's what I pick. And I'm actually going to turn it I'm going to go ahead with my bone folder and just crease it down again. And then I'm just going to slowly walk it down. Just like that, and then press it down. And I'm going to do the other side. And same thing. Press it down. And now my sides. And I'm just going to smush in these corners to flatten them out. And then the other side. We're almost done making the cover. And then I like to just go ahead and press in my corners where the paper overlaps. If you press it in, you can just get it to press down good. And you won't, like if you put your finger over it, it won't feel as bad. Alright, so now I'm going to lift up and I'm just going to crease in these corners here. And try to get them stuck down pretty good. Oops. Oops. Keep slipping. And then just kind of go ahead, slowly get them bent. And then what I like to do is to get this hull here creased in nice, I like to just take my hand and squish. I'm squishing the cardstock into the edging of the spine right now. And I just walk it down. And then flip it over and go back. And then I like to do it on the chipboard on the sides to the cardstock. So I just kind of hold this up here and then just kind of push this down and then just slowly run my fingers down it to get it to crease in, and then just flip it up and do it just so you know you get the fully to the top and the bottom. Alright, so there we go. Now we have our cover, and what I'm going to have to do is go ahead and inlay black paper all over this. So I will be back in a second and show you how to do that. Okay, so let's continue. So real quick, one thing I did want to mention is your corners where you've cut in your little pieces for your frame. Just take a black Sharpie, and if you didn't get it perfect, just go ahead and touch up those little corners just a little bit with the black Sharpie just to cover the chipboard. Unless you're using black chipboard, then you would be fine. So now most of this side here you don't really have to worry too much about, but I would say cover this half here. So with that, I need a piece that is 8.5 by 11 and another 2.5 inch strip to cover it. So you can come up to close to here. You don't have to go cover like all this area because you're going to cover it over with pattern paper. It's just that you want to get like this part, at least this part in here covered. This I wouldn't worry too much either, but I'm just going to go ahead and cover it anyway. So again, I'm just going to attach the two pieces because one is not long enough. So I just used 1/4 inch score tape on that. And let me grab my bigger roll of score tape. So you do want full coverage again. So let me just see. Alright, I'm going to cover this side. I had a little mark on my paper right here, so I just wanted to make sure that I put the face down. So full tape coverage. and you're doing the full tape coverage because you don't want to worry about any bits of your cover lifting. Or not, yeah, well, your cover. You just don't want to make sure any of it lifts, because if it lifts, then it's more apt to just tear on its own. So go ahead and tape it all down. You could glue it if you want to. I just actually have better luck personally with score tape. So that's why I use that. And then I'm just going to get a little bit. Alright, and then just make sure it's all burnished down good. Alright, and then now we're going to attach it. And because of the seams here and stuff, and the seam in the paper, this is where we attached it. I'm going to put that at this end because, well, it would fit right in the middle. I just don't want any seams in with where my spacers are. But I think I'd probably be good. It's going to be right in the middle. So I'm just going to actually, do I want to? No, I'm going to do it this way. I want it nice clean here. This will get covered over with paper. So alright, so then just inspect to make sure you don't have any tape overhanging anywhere. Make sure if you do, just kind of tuck that down, because it will show, and then you're more apt to get dust or dirt possibly sticking to it. So now you're going to go ahead and cover it. So I like to hold it nice and tight and then eyeball it, so I'm not actually touching anything with it because my fingers are in the way, and I just want to make sure I try to get it as even as possible. And I think that looks good. So like I said, you don't have to come all the way to the edge right here, because that is going to get covered over with pattern paper. So now just go ahead and in between your spacers, just go ahead and press down. Make sure you burnish it in really well. On this side. And in the beginning when we first added the paper, I'm going to do the same method I did there as I did when I did the cover. So I'm just slowly going to walk up, and you can also see if the tape's not sticking, you're going to see your paper start to kind of like bubble up a little bit. So to also tell you where you really need to burnish it in there for your tape. Alright, and then again, just same thing as before, just pressing it in. And there we go. Now it's all done for this part. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'll be back in 1 second, and I'm going to show you my pages in this are a waterfall style. So I will go ahead and show you how to do that in 1 second. Alright, hold on 1 minute. Okay, so let's go ahead now, and we're going to make our pages. Now you need 3 sheets of cardstock, and your piece A cardstock is going to measure 8.5 by 9.5. Piece B is going to measure 8.5 by 9.25, and your C piece is going to measure 8.5 by 9. So if you are working with 8.5 by 11-inch paper, just go ahead and throw the 8.5-inch paper in, and just make sure it's a true 8.5, because I do find sometimes that it is not really. Like on these 3 sheets here, I literally just cut off these little strands to actually make my paper a true 8.5. So make sure you just go ahead and trim that up. So first off, we need to make some score lines. So our A piece, we're going to score. So on that one, you're going to make 2 score marks. On this one, you're going to score at a 1/2 inch, and you're going to score at 1 inch. So that's your A piece. So you're going to have 2 score lines 1/2 inch apart on your A piece. And then your B piece, so we're scoring, we're having the, did I do this right? Yeah, so you're going to score on, so your A piece you're scoring on the 9.5 inch side. Oops, I just have to fix my measurements. I wrote it wrong. And then on your B piece, this score line is going to be 1/2 inch and then 3/4 of an inch. So you only want to give yourself a 1/4 inch spacing. You see that? So 1/2 inch first and then 1/4 inch. And then your C piece on the 9-inch side at the top, you're going to score at a 1/2 inch. And that's all the marks on that one. So now what you want to do is we're going to go ahead and add score tape. So I'm adding score tape to the first score line, and they all are going to have a 1/2 inch score line on the edge. So that's where we're going to bind our pages. So if you've ever made waterfall pages in your albums, this is very similar. The setup is going to be very similar to doing a waterfall. So now we want to go ahead on all the pieces on the first 1/2 inch mark, go ahead and fold them over. So your tape, you'd be able to see your tape. And then make sure even on the ones like this one here is the one with the 1/4 inch. Just go ahead and burnish that one down too, because you want to be able to get the paper to go ahead and fold nicely. And then the one with the 1/2 inch. And make sure you burnish both those down. Alright, so now the first one we're going to add is our A piece, and this is the one that has the 2 1/2 inch score lines. So you're going to take your book. And now what I like to do, the way I like to make sure I keep everything straight, is you don't need the 1/2 inch one folded over yet. So just take and make sure you're folding just the first 1/2 inch down so your paper would lay flat. And then what you're going to do is you're going to line it up to the edge. Now you're going to leave probably about a 1/4 inch from where your book bends right here. So from the line here that's closest to the main part of the book, you're going to leave about a 1/4 inch spacing right there. So what you want to do is go ahead and lay down your page, and I'm holding it nice and flat, and then make sure everything lines up nice and straight. So you might have to eyeball it, but just make sure you're lined up top and the bottom the same, and also watch your spacing here to make sure you're even from how far over you're here at the bottom to the top. And then if you really wanted to make sure even, you could just measure. So it's 3/4. So I've got it exactly centered. So what I do is when I remove my tape, I put my hand down on my page and I just untuck this here, but I don't move my paper. And then I'm just going to remove my tape, make sure no tape overhang, and then I'm just going to tuck it back under nice, and then just go in for the stick. And then your page itself is going to flip. So now you have the 1/2 inch extra, kind of like a gusset, so to speak. So you have that here. So let's see. You can kind of see. Let's see, where's my lighting? It's not going to line up with my lighting. I had it, but you can kind of see down here where it's kind of angled out. But this way it's going to stick up. So now go ahead and move that one over, and you're going to take your second piece that now has only the 1/4 inch spacer, and you're going to do the same thing again. Make sure it's flat. So your 1/4 inch here is laying down flat with your paper. You can pinch it and it's all flat. So what you're going to do is now this paper here where you stuck it down right here, just like a waterfall, now you want to go ahead and butt up that piece right next to it. And you should be good. So once you know you're nice and tight up against this piece, because you should be squared off here, go ahead and untuck it. Pull your tape out and go ahead and stick it down. So there you go. So there's your second one. And then your last one is going to fit right in here, nice and tight, right up against this one that you just stuck down. And you should be coming up approximately about about a 1/4 inch or so, give or take, to the edge here. So make sure you're nice and tight right up against the one you stuck down, and hold your paper, untuck it, and this piece is the one with just the single score line. And then everything, hopefully, if you did it right, you can press it down and it all should line up nice and neat. So now the reasoning behind the way we did this, so this one's got no, the bottom page here, PC, has got no additional score line, so it's going to lay nice and flat. The second page has got the 1/4 inch, kind of like gusset, so as you build up your pages, it's going to lay up on top. And then the 1/2 inch one as well. So I just am not going to get that in the camera. Let's see if it kind of zoom in. No, it's not going to show, unfortunately. But anyway, the way it lays down is so that I'll take a picture and I'll insert the picture in. But the way it lays down is you're going to have spacing. So with your little gusset you just made there, it's going to be able to allow your pages to stack up on top of each other. Okay, so now I will go ahead and we're going to go ahead and start working on our pages. All right, I'll be back in a second. Okay guys, so we are going to get started working on the inside back cover, and you're going to have to prep a couple of pieces. So let's start off with, these are going to be your flaps, and you're going to need 2 pieces, 8.5 by 9, and on the 9-inch side you're going to score at 1/2 inch, and you can do that to both pieces, and then you're going to apply the tape on the 1/2 inch score mark line, and then you can go ahead and burnish those. And do that to both. One's going to be a right side and one is going to be a left hand side. Okay, and then you're going to need one piece that is going to be 8.5 by 9.5. No score lines, but you are going to tape completely around the border. And let's go ahead and get started. So what I did was I went ahead and prepped already, and I did add score tape, and I'm using 3/8 inch score tape around the border of our window. So go ahead and apply that. And what you're going to have to do now is you're going to decide what you want for the picture that is going to be in your shaker element on the front. I chose these cute little chubby witches. So what you want to do is, let's see, I'm just going to quickly, which I didn't do, add some more score tape to the border of this. And this is just to help keep it down. And then I'll show you how to put this on. Okay, and let me get you a measurement of my patterned paper. So my pattern paper I cut at 9 by 8. So 9 by 8 for my pattern paper. And what I'm going to do is probably, I want to make sure where my witches go. So actually it kind of looks really good just the way it is, just like that. So going to, let's see, just make sure again. Alright, so just like that. Whoops. I don't know how I keep doing that. Every time I set it down, it goes crooked. Alright, so yeah. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to hold it down and get into frame. Alright, so I'm going to hold it down, and I'm going to remove one piece of my score tape just to kind of give the starting point, just so I know I have it. So let me just double check. That looks pretty good. Good enough to me. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to remove all of my score tape from all my spots. And I did that one just to secure it. Oops. And I didn't have to ink this sheet because you're not going to see any of the edges. So, super cute. My little witches there. So now what I want to do is, now that I've put those on, make sure your tape is down nice and solid, and also around your window, because when you put your shaker elements in, you don't want them to get stuck underneath. So just go ahead and burnish it down really well. So now I'm going to take my larger piece. So this is the 8.5 by 9.5, and I just want to go ahead and back my pattern paper here, because just in case you cut anything a little off or whatever, you want to just make sure this whole back solid piece here is going to be black. So just like the other one, I'm going to make sure I am all lined up, and it's the 9.5 this way and 8.5 up and down. So I'm going to make sure I'm lined up with my pattern, with my cardstock on this side. And again, I'm just going to remove one piece. And stick that down. And then I'm going to I am all lined up nice. So now I'm just going to go ahead and remove my tape. Now on this one I used 5/8 inch tape. I used the wider tape for this just because I wanted to have more coverage as to where I was putting it. Okay. And now I'm going to just slowly bring it down. That way my paper will stay nice and flat and I won't have any warping. Sometimes if you put your paper down over here first, you might end up with a wrinkle. So you want to just kind of walk it over and double check it. Nice. Okay, so now these are our flaps. And what we want to do is we want to add our flaps. So remember we folded and burnished it. Tape right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my flap. And I'm going to make sure I'm nice and even. And I am about, I'd say 1/8 inch away from, let's see, let me show you. So where my cover is right here, I'm going to line it up right about there, if you can see it. So I'm going to be about 1/8 inch away from the edge of my front cover, where it folds, that is. So go ahead and line it up. And again, untuck my flap a little bit, and I'm going to just get the tape. Make sure no tape overhang on the top or the bottom. And then I'm just going to go ahead and press it down. And now you have your first flap. And now you've got plenty of room over here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and add the second flap. So this is unfolded. And then you're going to fold it over and burnish it. So now I'm going to line it up again, probably about 1/4 inch away from the edge. And I'm going to make sure that when I put it down that I am lined up evenly with my bottom flap. So that way it's going to be nice and clean and even. And I'm just going to go ahead and remove the tape. Yeah. So now we open up like this. Voila. Alright, so now what you want to do is you're going to go ahead and open up your flaps, like so, and you're going to put a pocket in here. Now, I went ahead and prepped my pocket piece, and with my Cameo, I went and cut out some witch designs. On my original book for Crealies, I used, let's see, put this up this way. On my original book, I used the little flower die in here, but I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to do the witches, and I want to try to keep my book more of a witch theme. So I am going to use the flower die, but I'm going to use it on the front cover. So on this, I did make my pocket a little shorter than the original, as you can see. And I just cut this out, like I said, with my Cameo. So let me give you a measurement that I used. So if you're not going to make anything fancy, your pocket piece is going to be 4.5. Let me open that up. So it's going to be 4.5 by 10.25. You're going to score 1/2 inch on each end on the 10.25 inch side. You're going to rotate it and score 1/2 inch on the 4.5 inch side. You're going to apply your tape, and then you're going to go ahead and cut the corners like so. So you have an angle, just like that. And then you're going to go ahead and fold your pieces in and burnish really well to get them nice and flat. So, and that's going to go right in this center area here. So go ahead, eyeball it. Make sure that the bottom of your pocket actually lines up with your flaps, so everything will look nice and neat. So go ahead and set that down just like that. And you're probably going to have about 1/4 inch on each side here and 1/4 inch here, and then bring it right to the edge of the two flaps. and you're going to go ahead and stick it down. So the way I stick my pockets down, just like everything else, untuck one flap, and then make sure no tape overhang, and I go ahead and stick it down. And then now I can go ahead and remove the tape backing. I also cut a piece of acetate that I put on the back side of my pocket, and depending on what you're doing, if you're going to just leave it blank, you don't have to worry about it. But my acetate piece I cut was 3 3/4 by 9 inches. Okay, so if you should do a design on the front, that's what size acetate piece you'll need. So again, now I'm going to kind of just eyeball right here because I want to make sure my pocket is going to go straight across evenly, and if you just kind of flip it over, it may not necessarily go where it needs to. So I'm going to find my spot there, make sure I'm even, and then just kind of slowly walk it over, just like that. Okay, and I went ahead already as well, and I started cutting out my designer paper. So just so you know, my designer paper that I'm using, I am using the Hocus Pocus, and this is from Recollections. And I'm using 2 of the paper pads. I'm using this one and also the other Hocus Pocus right here. So these are the 2 papers that I'm using to make this. And now we're going to go ahead, and so I cut my paper here. My designer paper is cut at 8 1/4 by 9. And it should fit right down inside, just like that. And my paper is getting hung up on my bottom of my pocket. So just like that. And I'm going to pull it up. I'm actually going to make this one also come right up to the edge, just like that. Okay, so I could either glue it or tape it, and I think for this I'm going to tape just in case I get hung up on that pocket. So to tape it, I'm using 3/8 inch tape, and I'm only going to go down about halfway because there's no need to waste tape all the way down. And straight across the top, so I'm going to do the entire top. Okay, so let's go ahead and stick this back down in here again. Let's see. Nope. Alright. So with this, now I know where I'm at. So I'm going to leave it stuck down as far as I can so I can remove the tape first. Oh, maybe it's not going to work. Let's see. Yeah. So not putting the tape all the way down will help guide you, so you can kind of get it where it needs to go. Yeah, see, I'm stuck again. Okay. It just does not want to cooperate. There we go. Alright, so I gotta stand up so I can see this. So I want to bring it just like that. And then press it down. And there we go. So that's how that looks. So when it folds up, it's going to open like this. And I also cut my designer paper for my side pocket, or my side pages. And these ones are, they should be the same. It should be square. Yep, so this is going to be 8 1/4 by 8 1/4. And I think I'm going to do, just going to do tape on all of it. It's just quicker and easier, and it actually ends up being much neater too. And if you have to remove anything, you can just use undo to remove it. So let me take these up super quick. I cannot wait to see how this album is going to look done. I think it is going to be so cute. And I definitely want to go with a cute little Halloween witch theme where the paper has the chubby little witches. So it's kind of my inspiration for how I'm going to design this book. Okay, so let's go ahead and get these pages on here. So go ahead and open up. I don't need the ruler. So what I'm going to do is make sure I'm right. And I'm going to go ahead and line it up, center in my space. Looks good to me. Nice and even all the way around. I'm going to hold it down and remove my tape from one side. And I went ahead already and I had inked all my edges already to save time. And I inked them with the Black Soot Distressed ink. There we go. And just like before, just slowly walk it over. And then make sure you go ahead and stick it down good. And I'm going to go ahead and do this side now. Same way. Lining it up. Just like that. And one side down. And now go ahead. Once you know you're even, you can go ahead and make it permanent. There you go. Look at how cute that is. Oops. So super cute. I love it. So that's how you do that. So now in the original book, on that page, I had some little bats. And I had used my Cameo machine and I cut out little back shapes for the corner as little cute little tuck spots. So I went ahead and cut out some more cute little shapes. And I cut out these cute little witch hats. So, whoops, wrong side. So this little guy is going to go right here, and I'm going to glue across the bottom and right here. So then that way papers can go in from the top. So let's give that a quick little glue. So I'm just going to glue right here and then across the bottom. And right now I'm using the art glitter glue. And go ahead. There we go. That's where that little one's going. And then on this side, I'm going to go ahead and do the same so that I mirror image each one from itself. Oops. So that's where I glued. And again, line it up from the bottom. and then just the top part there of the hat. Yeah, super cute. Cover up my glue bottle. All right, so that's how this page goes. And that's the inside. And I will be back momentarily, and we will work on probably this side next. All right, so I'll see you in a minute. All right, that concludes this part of the video tutorial, and please check back for the next video tutorials for this mini album. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below, and I'd be happy to help you. And if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. I would love it if you would subscribe. And until next time, guys, happy crafting. Bye!